So residents of Diepsloot are threatening another shutdown unless President Cyril Ramaphosa comes to address the crime problem in the area. Of course, it's on a knife edge, this area, after residents took to the streets last night, barricading the roads with burning tyres, rocks and debris. It's really over a lack of police visibility in the area, but we know this is an area north of Johannesburg that has had ongoing crime problems. The residents say that the police have abandoned them and criminals have simply taken over. Let's bring in our reporter Manqoba Mchunu, who has been on the ground for a number of hours. He joins us now. Manqoba, I can see behind you there is a massive fire. Give us the very latest on what is happening. Are protests likely to die down this evening? Have roads in the area, the R511, the N14, been at all impacted by these protests, as threatened earlier by the community?
Well, certainly, Sally, we have seen quite a number of interruptions to the major roads leading here to Diepsloot, of course, as residents had taken their issues to the street, blockading some of those streets, the R511 in particular, that had been blockaded earlier on by residents who were marching to the different areas here in Diepsloot, to the different locations, essentially targeting some of the shacks and as well as some of the stalls belonging to foreign nationals here who they say are harboring criminals in this particular area. Earlier on, there was also an attempt to the N14. We did see traffic being disrupted a bit. That's until police had then gone to the N14. They'd been stationed there to ensure that there are no disruptions to traffic. In fact, they had to fire tear gas to the crowd just to prevent them from going to the N14 protest. And as you can see, Sally, even now the residents are, still continuing with their protest. They're saying that they're not going to stop up until, they get a word as far as what is going to happen to their crime situation is concerned. Earlier on, we spoke to some of the community leaders who raised the issues as far as, the police inaction in this community is concerned. And the residents are saying that they don't see the police at all when some of the heinous crimes, the serious crimes happen in this community. There have been murders that have occurred in this community, and they're saying that the police have not been doing their jobs. They've not been, on the ground. They're not visible enough for them. And this is what has led to the spike in crime in this particular area. So as you can see, Sally, if I can just step out of the shot, the residents are still out here on the streets. They're still blockading the streets inside this particular township. And the main roads here are still covered in debris and
I want
burning,
us to get into the backstory
well as some of the
of what's been happening in Diepsloot, because there is a long history. But my understanding is that the most recent protest, what we're seeing now, was actually sparked by the death of a peace and security warden in the area. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, certainly there were quite a number of robberies that occurred in this community. We understand that it has been quite a number of deaths that have happened here due to the robberies that have happened in this community. And in fact, 3 weeks ago, the community had marched to the police station to hand over a memorandum. This is after 3 people were killed in this area. And subsequent to that, we understand that a day later, after they had handed over this memorandum, there were other robberies that occurred just a day after that particular march that they held 2 weeks ago. And we understand in that, in those incidents, there were 3 people that were shot. 2 of them died on the spot. And this was a former CPF chair, we're told, that was rushed to hospital. He actually had been assisting in one of the incidents that had occurred when he was also shot at by these criminals. He was in hospital for about a week, and he succumbed to his injuries on Sunday. We understand this is what really sparked this incident. Community members saying that despite the fact that they'd marched to the police. It doesn't seem that the crime in this area is letting down, and they're saying that they're not seeing any changes as far as their safety is concerned.
And you know, you raise such an important issue that the community is saying, because, and I'm going to play a clip for our viewers in just a moment, but in April last year, there were almost identical scenes here in Diepsloot. That, of course, was preceded by I think it was a mob lynching of a man, a Zimbabwean, if I recall correctly, who was accused of being involved in crime. That led to a number of protests. Eventually, the Amabarete, the specialized unit, policing unit, came in. And a lot of promises were made. And in fact, I'm going to play us a clip when our former colleague, Shahan Ramkissoon, along with two of our reporters, was in this very same area in Diepsloot just over a year ago, just to hear the kind of things that were being said. Let's take a quick listen.
I'm obviously outside the police station, and I just want to try and get a better sense as to whether or not people feel safe being so close to the police station. I've been talking to a couple of people about this, and one gentleman offered to speak to us, because lots of people are actually afraid to talk on camera, which is interesting. So, you know, in the context of having this building behind you, those lights flashing behind us, do you feel safe in Diepsloot?
Not at all, I'll say, because these guys are just there only to sit in the office. That's what I can say, because a lot of crime is happening in this town, and no action is done. It's only when you hear of community justice, they take matters into their own hands, making it a bit, these guys come late every time.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing. This is an area that for decades, literally, reporters have gone and reported on the crime. For a very long time, there was no police station. I think it was around the time when those two toddler girls, horrific story, this is around 2014, I think, were found murdered in a toilet. Eventually, the police station was built. Last year, April, we had protests, we had promises, and yet again, the people of this very same community are saying, where are the police? What is going on? The police seem absolutely incapable of getting a handle on the crime in this area.
Well, that's what community members are telling us, Sally. In fact, they're saying that the police have failed them as a community. You know, they are even saying, Sally, that they don't want the police minister to arrive in this community. They don't want to be addressed by the police minister, because they're saying that there were a lot of promises that were made here last year by the police minister, and it doesn't seem that these, promises that were made are bearing any fruit as far as fighting crime in this community is concerned. Of course, we know that there was a deployment of Amabarete to this community last year, but the community members saying that as soon as those deployments are removed, that's when then the crime then continues unabated in this particular community. In fact, Sally, they are saying now that they want to be addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. They want the president to come to this community because they've lost all faith in the police minister as well as the police. But earlier on, I spoke to one of the community leaders, and this is what he had to say.
Requested Minister Begitele to come here previously. We have seen the solution that he's bringing are not permanent, because we will deploy police for a moment of time, and then these police will patrol the main roads. We want police that will be here permanently, that will get in number 12, number 13, and number 1, where the hotspot of crime is. Hence now we are requesting the president to come. One of the issues what we have realized, people were arrested here, illegal foreigners to be specific, were arrested here, and they were released by the Randburg court, sent back to the same community of Diepsloot, where we are saying they are illegal. You release them from court to come to Diepsloot to do what? To do what in our community? People who have came in our country illegally. We are not xenophobic. This thing of saying South Africans are xenophobic, it must stop. We are not xenophobic as South Africans. It is a fact that a majority of crimes that are committed in our community, it is illegal foreigners, to be specific, from Zimbabwe. We cannot call such people our brothers. It is a fact that people who come in our country and sell drugs, majority of them are from Nigeria. It is a fact. We know we're Africans. They are African brothers, but we can't call someone that comes in your country, that comes in your community and sell your people drugs and murder your people and rape your people, and we are told that we must call them brothers. No, they are not our brothers, those who are doing those things. They are our enemies.
So you can see there's so much anger because this issue has not been dealt with. You know, clearly it's a very difficult and intractable problem. What are the authorities saying about what they're doing, why they aren't present? I've seen various crossings and I haven't seen a huge police presence, if any. And then if you could tell us about that, and also are the roads in the area, because there are quite a few big roads, there's the R511, the N14, are they now safe to travel this evening?
Well, not safe, Sally. I can certainly assure you that, the protest is still continuing. So at all to drive anywhere around this particular township. We understand, Sally, that as far as police are concerned, we're told that Commissioner here in the area to perhaps listen to some of the concerns. Is not meeting with the community members though, but what we're hearing is that possibly there will be meeting between the leaders as well as far as some of the issues are concerned. Of course, they have made it quite clear that they don't want to speak the police here. They want the president to come to this area because the police have not attended or have not brought any resolutions to any of the problems in this community. But there's one of the community leaders that was speaking just shortly, Sally, Lois Soto here, just perhaps to give us a sense of where to from here. Lois, so what's happening now? We can see that, of course, the protest is still continuing, but we understand that there are talks that you're going to be holding with, the police as well as some of the authorities this evening.
We're not aware, some of us, of those talks, but we have set as leaders and also decide to say, as patriotic as we are, we need to also have another way of engaging the office, the union buildings. A resolution that tomorrow we'll send a delegation to union building. That is the first step. Secondly, the two things that are happening. The memorial service of our former chairperson of CPF, Mr. John Makolo, is happening this week. We might have a cool-off based on those two aware of other engagement that other leaders are talking about as people on the ground.
So what happens to this particular protest? Are you continuing with it, or are you going to call it off up until those, that delegation that's going to the union building then comes back with a report to you?
We're not calling it off today, but we'll reach that stage where we'll call it off till we hear what the union building is saying to us. Because to us, it is not nice to see our streets burning like this, but we felt that it is necessary. But to show that we love our community, we love this country, we will have other further channels of communicating with union building so that we can reach the president, so that he can come to Diepsloot to address the people. We will again invite him officially to come to Diepsloot. That is our plan forward.
So tomorrow what happens?
Tomorrow, indeed, you might see things slowing down, because we'll speak with our community to say, let's use this different channel, let's engage the president, let's mourn for our fellow former chairperson of the CPF for these 2 days, and then on Friday again, if we are not getting joy from union building, we will again, as community public, call another public meeting and continue with what has been happening.
Okay, thank you very much for community leaders. Just clarifying, Sally, what's going to happen now. There are going to be engagements, they say, with representatives from the union buildings. They're going to, in fact, be sending a delegation to the union buildings to try and set up a meeting for the president to come to this community, because they're saying that they simply lost all hope in the police to resolve the issues of crime in this community.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, and the absolute sincerity of these community leaders shining through. They do not want to cause trouble. They want help. and it has been so many years of the same problem again and again. It's like Groundhog Day. We're on a rinse and repeat cycle. Something has to give. Thank you so much for updating us on what's going on in Diepsloot tonight. And as Manqoba Mchunu, our reporter there, has said, the road's not really safe to travel. That would be the R511, the N14. So we're going to keep an eye on that story during the course of the evening.